Hello and welcome to Host Planet Bitesize, the podcast brought to you by Host Planet and Hostfully. My name's James Varley, the founder of Host Planet, and our goal is to share everything you need to know about buying and managing short-term rentals. Today's guest is Sally Henry from Key Data, and she'll be sharing the 5 data trends every property manager needs to stay on top of in 2026. Look out for trend 3, because mastering this could make all the difference this year. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planet, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and HostPlanetGB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. Sally, thank you for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize. You've got 5 data trends that every host and property manager needs to know in order to get ahead in 2026. So take it away with trend number 1.
I do. Thank you, James. Thanks for having me again. Happy New Year. So yes, navigating 2026. The first one I'm going to do, you've maybe heard us talk about it. It's a two-word term, rate agility. And by that, it means be super dialed into your rates, be agile. Please do not set your rates and hope that they're going to stand good. Understand the rate you've set, understand where you've put that rate out and how that market is responding to it. So rate agility is super important. As we weave in like the 5 different data trends that I'm going to pull up, they're all interconnected to a large extent. But as we're seeing a later market come through, getting your rates right for the right type of booker, for the right channel, has never been more important. And you will win out if you have rate agility. You will outperform people that are just setting their rates and leaving it. So number 1, rate agility.
So rate agility then is setting the rates for proper reasons and not just guessing and thinking that seems about right.
100%, and responding to the market and your local. So when I will say, and I think we mentioned this last time I was on, James, like mystery shopping yourself, even if you're just going to, first of all, look at your own property or your own properties compared to the local environment. So what is the rest of the market around you doing? Obviously, using Key Data, you can see that quite easily, but you can also go and just mystery shop and pretend you're trying to book your own property. What else is coming up? Are you still competitive? Are you too cheap? It's not always about lowering your pricing. It's about being agile and being responsive to the environment that we're seeing.
Yeah, I remember the last time I did that actually with the couple of properties that I've got in Yorkshire. And there were a few properties nearby who were quite similar, but you know what? They just weren't as good. Didn't look anywhere near as good on the photos. And I thought, you know what? I'm not bringing my price down to their level to compete with them because it's a different market. My properties are a bit better. So we actually need to charge more. Your short-term rental business is evolving fast, but how do you keep up with the latest regulation, tax changes, and industry trends? The answer is to attend the Host Planet Roadshow, which is coming to a city near you in 2026. This is the UK's premier event for holiday let professionals, supported by the Short-Term Accommodation Association, Price Labs, and the Women in Short-Term Rentals community. This is your essential opportunity for learning, networking, and expert insight. Starting in Cornwall on the 5th of February, you'll spend a full day mastering compliance, optimizing your revenue strategies, and sharing lessons learned with your peers. After Cornwall, we'll be in Portsmouth on the 4th of March and London on the 23rd of April. That's the day after the Short Stay Summit. Later in the year, we'll be heading to Nottingham, Bath, Chester, and Edinburgh. So don't navigate the complex 2026 market alone. Learn from the leaders driving the industry forward and shape the short-term rental conversation in your market. Tickets are just £40 each and available now from our website. Head to hostplanet.club for further details. Okay, then, so trend number 2.
Well, interconnected hugely, and it leads in really nicely to what you just said, and it's rate discipline. So cheaper isn't always better. It's being competitive, knowing your customer base, knowing if you are actually delivering the right rate for what you're offering. And a lot of that can be baked around a further trend we're going to talk about, which is length of stay. So do have your prices set for the correct length of stay. And people aren't always looking for cheaper. Sometimes they just want shorter durations, which you can price at, longer durations. It doesn't mean you have to start, eking down your price or your overall stay price at all. So I think having rate discipline, we've seen some really late market activity come through. And if we're expecting this to continue, and that puts a real pressure on rates. So, oh my God, I wasn't sold this time. This time last year, I'd got a booking for Easter. I haven't. Let me reduce my rate to try and fill that occupancy. And it's a really easy trap to fall into. So we're urging people to be very deliberate and intentional with their rates, to understand what your value of your property is, because all your other costs are still prevalent. So you've potentially got more operational costs, turning over more changeovers. So I think be intentional, be very disciplined with your rate, reduce it if you genuinely know your environment is commanding that lower rate. But if not, don't just automatically slash your rates really close to the end.
And know your numbers, right? Know how much this is costing you. Look at, if you've got a mortgage, your insurance costs, your turnover costs, because a lot of these things over the last few years have gone up and up and up, and rates probably haven't matched. So your profit might not be quite the same. It's just so important to know how much you're spending, right?
100%. And we can see demand, which we generally measure by occupancy, is fairly flat. So you've not got the ability to really push those rates up because, there is still a lot of supply around and people are just holding out a little bit longer before they're making a decision. But it's not always purely price led. So don't fall into the trap of just discounting to get those bookings in.
Trend number 3 then, Sally.
So trend number 3, we talked about it briefly there, length of stay. We are seeing the length of stay continue to contract. I think we started off the year down another 0.2 of a day. And it doesn't sound like much, but when you add it up, we're now sat around 5 days as an average across the UK. But when I look back at the main summer holidays, it was down by almost half a day across most of our key arrival weeks. So a definite trend that we're seeing. So the good news is people are still travelling. They're travelling more frequently, but that also means that they're not staying for quite as long. So make sure you are geared up to attract that more spontaneous booker that are still wanting to take their breaks. They're just taking more frequent breaks. So have you priced accordingly? Do you have multiple start dates? Do you have a gap night strategy? Do you have different start dates that you hadn't really had to think about necessarily before, because that is what the market is potentially looking for. So if you're not set to capture any of those eyeballs on your properties, then you're not even going to have a chance, even if it's not, setting your prices for one night. It could still be a 3-night price that you're just showing that 1 night duration. And then you've got the opportunity to say you can book in early or you check in early, you can leave later. So you can position it and package it up as you like, but be aware of what the market is looking for. Don't miss out on eyeballs to your property.
Yeah, 100%. And if your minimum stay is 7 nights, and if you go back a few years, a lot of the big property management companies, they will have had people on 7-night minimum stays. Now the average is 5. If that's what the vast majority of the market are looking at, 5 nights and below, probably, you're never going to get seen. And as you were saying there, it's very simple. If you want to be seen, you need to reduce that minimum stay, but you can still charge, your 7-night rate for a 5-night booking. It's just about having everything set up and automated in your system, right?
Yeah, it's understanding the mindset of the guests and the way they, I think, consume short-term rental data or inventory now. It's changed. So having that element of flexibility is as important an ingredient for success as just your pure rates.
And I think as well with the minimum stays, you have to look at the time of year. Summer, perhaps, maybe around Christmas and New Year and summer holidays or school holidays, you might be able to put that minimum stay up a bit. But the rest of the time, the shoulder seasons, you might have to look at reducing it a little bit as well.
It is. And I think that's being about be hyper aware of your environment and what else you have around. So if you're somewhere that has the hotels, for example, then, how can you tap into some of that hotel guests? Well, actually, the shorter length of stay means that you are suddenly becoming more relevant to hotel people who were previously looking for hotels. So be aware of your local environment and the relativity of some of these trends that we're seeing. And to your point, if you can get people booking 6 months out for 7 nights at high rate, brilliant, take as many as you can, but make sure you're not left waiting, hoping that the guests will change the way that they're behaving right now, because it might not come.
100%. Okay, then, Sally, trend number 4.
Well, we're talking about late market. We are continuing to see this later market, which is making it difficult for property hosts and property managers to navigate, because empty calendars means that you feel pressure to do something. But I think 18% of UK arrivals from key data clients were made to arrive within 7 days last year. So 18%, that's a really high number. So it's almost becoming more of a norm to try and navigate rather than an extreme data point that we can discard. So are you geared up to take those, next day, same day arrivals? Are you set up operationally to do so if you want to? So I think understand that later is becoming more of an industry normal, shall we say. If you're managing on behalf of owners, make sure they're aware of that so you don't have quite the same pressure on filling those rates. And almost try and make sure you are gearing your marketing messages to tap into that spontaneous booker that are still going to travel, but they will be making their decision very late. So are you in the right places to attract that spontaneity? Because I see that as an extra opportunity for the industry to tap into.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the spontaneity, the last minute bookings. They seem to have got shorter and shorter, the booking windows over the last few years. But I've seen it especially with tradespeople, actually, and people working away when they've got a job last minute. And it's like, right, I need to find somewhere, or maybe the job's overrun a little bit and they need a place to stay. Well, I've seen so much of that the last year or so. And I'm sure it's similar for a lot of other people in the industry as well.
Indeed, yeah.
Trend number 5 then, Sally?
Fast one, we can't ignore the shift that we're seeing in channels. So we have seen that the direct booking channels across the UK have lost share again. So in 2025, it lost about 6 percentage points. It's gone to booking.com and Airbnb and other channels. So again, we see the rise of the OTAs continue to grow. And I, for one, am all for using the channels strategically. I think they add great value to our industry, but equally being able to make sure you are controlling your guest and the relationship you have with your guest would mean that you also need those direct bookers as well, and to have a balance. I would urge everyone not to have 100% reliance on just one particular channel. Be considered, understand what the channels are bringing for you. So we tend to see bookings made via booking.com or Airbnb tend to book later and stay for shorter durations. People booking with their direct channels tend to book earlier, stay for longer. So it's getting the mix right that works for your business. Make sure you don't get controlled by some of the channels and don't go chasing the booking too much, but set a strategy and be intentional with how you're managing that inventory and that availability.
I imagine one of the reasons the channels have gone up a little bit in relation to the demand and where people are booking is new stock that comes in, especially if it's newer hosts. They tend to only be listed on the channels and they might not have set up a direct booking channel yet. So is that potentially one of the reasons why we're seeing the channels grow and direct just goes down a little bit?
I think it's certainly a factor. There's very few barriers to entry into our industry, which is a great thing, the ebb and flow. But equally, I think the money that the OTAs have invested in both their brand awareness and the frictionless checkout and really pushing policies that guests love and like. I don't think hosts and property managers love the degree of flexibility that the channels are pushing through. But I think that's another reason really why they are really growing their share quicker. They've invested hugely in this sector, and they are trying to gear themselves to exactly what the guest is looking for. So I think we've all got lessons learned that we can apply, but don't underestimate the value of your direct knowledge of your hyperlocal area, which is worth its weight in gold. So it's about getting that balance. And trying to get you different guests. And also, if you have a guest and you want them to repeat book with you, have that intentional strategy and comms with them. And also look to see what sort of guests the OTAs are bringing you. Because if they're people from overseas, you possibly wouldn't have got those yourself because you may not be doing activity in different languages and dealing with different currencies. So really understand, I think, your different channels and what they're bringing for you. You can't listen to any one person and say, oh, that's the one way that everyone should be doing it. Understand what your portfolio, what your property needs.
Yeah, easiest thing you can do is once you get that OTA booker, if they want to come back, try and get them to book direct with you next time, and put the QR code in your property. Just put a little poster in your property, make it as simple as that, or give them a call or an email afterwards. Just make sure they know that they can book direct. Simple as that. Okay then, Sally, 5 brilliant trends there to keep on top of. Just give us the lowdown on key data and where people can find out more info.
Yeah, so key data is designed for property managers and hosts to understand all those key metrics, plus probably 50 others that we can talk about. So understand your own data, understand how you're performing compared to the market so you can set the right strategy that's there for you. So an incredible tool, which I would urge everybody in the current market to get on top of their data and have that insights into what their local markets are doing as well. So visit keydatadashboard.com and connect with me on LinkedIn. We're doing a series of webinars at the moment just to try and give people an update on what we're seeing in the market and how we can help navigate. But reach out to the team, we'll be delighted to help.
Superb. And we'll put all those details in the show notes. Sally, it's been a pleasure as ever. Thanks for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize.
Thank you so much for having us again. Always a pleasure, James.
Great to chat to Sally Henry there from Key Data. I hope you found those trends useful as you aim to fill your calendars in 2026. All right, that's it for today's episode. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by short-term rental professionals across the globe. As a Host Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers. $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500 and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HostPlanetGB. To grab these deals, click the link in the show notes or head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit hostplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.